Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome back to Brown Bag Bets, powered by BETSPERTS. We are your daily dose of quick hit handicapping and sports betting picks. I'm Alex Christenson, and back from vacation. It looks like he even got a touch of sun, people. Mr. Andy Molitor. How was San Diego? How was California? Did you ever get that marina layer out of the way for your lovely wife?
No, not really. And no, I did not get a touch of sun. This is just bronzer. I just
You
hired a
cheated.
new makeup lady for my pre-show prep. No, it's good to be back. Nice to sleep in your own bed. Although the Airbnb had a mattress cover that was or like a mattress pad to die for. I
Mm.
should have grabbed the tag off that and got one of those for my bed. It was very comfy, but happy to be back. Kind of so I was in the air for some of the football, watching some of the football on my phone, watching some of the I didn't watch any of the football really on a big TV. Not a bad weekend for that to happen to me, I guess. It was kind of there was a bunch of really shitty games. Again, bad football's better than no football, but of all the weekends to be traveling during the games, I guess it wasn't the worst one in the world. Um,
Another week where just survivor pools get slaughtered. That was a lot of fun. I like
yeah, there
that. You
was
had the
like
Falcons, a bunch of people were on the
nothing.
Saints. Giants beat the Raiders was one. Obviously, the Jaguars beating the Bills. Your
That was
Vikings
the big
almost
one.
turned things upside down there. That could have been rough.
They almost turned the slate on its head, yeah, for sure. It was like
Titans beating the
no
Rams.
survivor blood for like 7 weeks, and then just crazy survivor blood for 2 weeks, which is good. It would have been really boring to have people chop the circa one like 800 ways, even with the Thanksgiving and Christmas stuff. So, yeah, my survivor, I think I have one alive out of like the 9 I started with, so RIP me. That one's not looking like it has a very good path either, based on who I've used. Jeffrey Swaim. Couldn't pick him out of a lineup, but congrats to Noops. Anybody who paid attention to the Twitter sphere last night, we had a first touchdown scorer winner courtesy of Alex Christensen, 44-1. Buys a lot of pasta. I said that because you're Italian.
Hmm.
I don't know what else. I don't know what else you would buy with all that. I'm supposing you would just
Cheese.
reinvest it into more betting. Honestly, it's probably just going to stay in the account.
Let's just say it covered some a rough NBA day. Let's just say that.
Sure, sure. And we'll have more first touchdown scores once we get to that later on in the show. But we'll start with I think we're gonna do like 5 or 6 sports. I don't who knows how
You
many
know how it
sports we'll get
goes.
to today. Lots of picks today, starting with the NBA and all the teams I like.
You
All
know,
the
it's
teams I pay attention to.
I wanted you to be happy and make sure that you felt comfortable coming back. So we've got the Bulls here. That actually has nothing to do with it. I mean, this is a terrible spot for the Nets. This will be a 3-4 for them on a back-to-back. It's kind of a middle of a road trip for them. You go back and look, Kevin Durant has played 37 minutes, and 38 minutes in his last 3 games. That kind of stuff piles on. I'm not sure necessarily that him or James Harden will rest tonight, but there's a greater than 0% chance of something like that happening. That said, we've got the Bulls at home here, laying only 1 point. I have them actually as 2-point favorites here before kind of making some adjustments again for those rest spots. Stuff like that really piles up, and this is one of the worst rest spots of the season so far. So happy to go against the Nets here, who continue to take money. It might just be. I'm not sure. Again, a lot of people that I know are talked to are betting the Bulls. I haven't talked to anybody that is betting the Nets. It just might be they're the Nets and they take money no matter what. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry got up this morning and went, "Oh, the Nets are underdogs," and something like that. So I think as part of that, we're getting some value here on the Bulls again before taking in the rest considerations and those other couple things. So fingers crossed, maybe Kevin Durant will try to take tonight off, and we'll get really lucky here. Either way, I like the Bulls to win tonight. Solid matchup for them, and overall, I think they've been the better team here, even before you get at home. We're going to take an over. Overs again. Really not doing well. You look at it, under still hitting north of 60%. It started to flatten out a little bit, 500 the last couple days, overs with some winning days here and there. And there are certain teams that have popped kind of from an over perspective. The Knicks have been an over team this year. The Sixers have been an over team this year. They play together tonight. The Knicks, again, kind of a tough rest spot, but I believe all those games kind of in the same time zone. So at least they don't have to deal with kind of anything like that. This should be a fun game. The two of these teams in top 5 in offensive rating in the NBA, which is kind of a surprise surprise. The Knicks, again, shooting a ton of three-pointers. The Sixers having more space on the floor, running more stuff through Joel Embiid, which is always a good thing from an efficiency standpoint. I have this total at 216 myself, so grab some 210 earlier. Saw 211. I think it might be popping up to 212. 212 is fine. We'll probably draw the line there. Maybe still a little bit of an edge, but again, trying to avoid overs here is just, it's been such a pull to unders, and the market continues to try to correct, but with all the injuries that are piling up on top of the change in fouls and the lower shooting percentage we've seen this season, it's just been kind of tough. But at some point, these things will start popping. This is a really nice spot. Speaking of nice spots, the Phoenix Suns here only laying 2.5 points in Sacramento. I think the Kings getting a lot of respect here for some strong performances in their last few games. Overall, this team should be overmatched. I had this out close to 5, almost 5.5 myself. So Suns minus 2.5, Suns minus 3. Again, another tough rest spot. We always like to go against those, a 3 and 4 on a back-to-back for the Sacramento Kings. It's just tough to find a position where the Kings are really going to be better. DeAndre Ayton looks like he might be out, probably out tonight, but Richaun Holmes, very good. I'm not too worried about him putting up a lot of points offensively. He'll still have kind of the same impact. So even if Ayton's out tonight, it just looks like a really nice spot for Phoenix. And then a first quarter bet. These have been doing pretty well. The model's starting to get up and running here as we start to have some more data. The Timberwolves have been a really great first quarter team. Yes, I prefer that D'Angelo Russell be in the game, and it's really hard for me, honestly, to talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves in a positive way. It's a team I've really been down on, but they've been great to start games here. They've really done well in the first quarter. They go against the Memphis Grizzlies tonight. Pretty solid rest. Both teams with 2 nights off here. So even without D'Angelo Russell playing, I had this pretty close to a pick 'em, honestly. Memphis may be a half-point favorite or something like that. So getting 2.5, there's even some 2s out there, which look fine to me, is good on the Timberwolves. Again, really solid first quarter team. And, don't expect them, honestly, to do well in the game long-term. I might look for some spots in the first quarter to back the Grizzlies, honestly, if we can get a nice price there. I think they will be overmatched as the game goes on. But we only need them to win the first 12 minutes and not even win, Andy. Just lose the first 12 minutes by 2 points or less.
Yeah, just keep it respectable. Let's go T-Pups. Maybe I'll even I have to. My daughter's doing a thing at school where they trick you into buying tickets. Where if she reads all these books, she gets a free Timberwolves ticket.
I used to get pizza. Do they not do the pizza anymore?
They should just do book it, but it's with purchase of an adult ticket. So I have to buy my ticket. Not fair, but I will be going. I'll go to. I'll send. I'll send
Wood
some pictures.
Dogs. That's pretty underhanded.
I will be going to a Slumber Puppies game sometime this winter. At least one. I've been to one in my life. I saw.
We'll find a good one for you.
God, this is how long ago Boogie Cousins was on the Pelicans.
Ooh.
And he was being.
That's a fun
I just
time.
remember like watching him the whole time because the stuff you don't see on TV when the camera moves to the half court shot, and he's still on the other side of the timeline, just bitching at a ref, just constantly. He was just a big baby. That's all. I don't even remember who won. I remember the T-Wolves had the neon awful jerseys. That's all I can remember. Otherwise, and then we went to the bar in the third quarter when the game got out of hand.
DeMarcus, it's a good way to describe him as a baby. I may or may not have once engaged with him vocally at a Sixers game in a very clear way that got to the point where my father started to inch his way in between the two of us as he was nervous that maybe Mr. Cousins might come over a row of seats or 2 after me.
He's got a few pounds and maybe a bit of reach on you too. So maybe
it was not. I was debating the money versus the possible death.
Yeah, you probably could have a nice class action. Speaking of, I don't know how I'm going to segue from Boogie Cousins fighting you.
Speaking of hitting things.
To Houston. Speaking of a really cool logo, because the Sixers have one, I think. The Houston Open took a page out of the 80s Astros logos and decided to make a really cool logo. I don't have anything for this yet, just kind of a quick glance at this. You can see this field isn't super great. Wolf moving over from last week up from Mayakoba. He had a nice, at least the beginning of the tournament. Sam Burns is your favorite here at the Houston Open. Gooch, Cam Smith, Finau, Scheffler, Wolf, Sung J.M., and Tyrrell Hatton near the top of the board. I will come up with some picks. It was a nice week to take off. I didn't do any golf last week. I'll come up with some picks tomorrow as I run my numbers for this. I will say for you guys who do any research or going back and look at maybe course horses or course history, people who've done well here in the past. This is a tournament that's been held for many, many, many years. But please do note that this is something they moved a couple years ago, because you can go back and look at. God, I had somebody picked out for. Oh, it was Russell Henley. Russell Henley top 10 here 5 years in a row with a win. None of those were at this course. That was at a different course in Houston. So they did change courses
Sneaky.
two years ago. So do know that this is at the Memorial Park, the redone Memorial Park Municipal Golf Course, not at the old Houston Country or Houston Golf Club, I believe it was at. So definitely take that into account. You really can't use old numbers here. Just kind of have to go off form and course fit for this one. I'll have some stuff later in the week. Speaking of sports that also have a Houston Open, tennis does have a Houston Open. Got rained out that one year. Remember the one year Asian player, Nishikori, he went down there when he was rehabbing and played in kind of a tournament that doesn't usually get names like that. But we're not heading to Houston. We're heading to Austria.
Austria, correct. Very good,
Did I
Andy. We're
nail it?
going to Linz. Now, there is a tournament in Linz this week. It's on indoor hard courts. It's a smaller tournament because the WTA finals start on Wednesday, Andy. So I'm going to hopefully start looking at some of that stuff. You know, it starts on Wednesday, and this is tennis. So, of course, there's not really any information anywhere about any of the groups or anything like that because, God forbid, you give time for people to digest this stuff. But I'm sure we'll have some stuff for that tomorrow or Wednesday. But for now, we have Linz. Now, I've got one pick here on the screen, but there's another one, and I didn't put it on here because I thought it would have started by now. But it looks like next up on the court after Cornet and Grabert finish, or Grabert, however you say that anyway, Cornet and Julia finish up, which probably is about in the next 20, 30 minutes. Oceane Dodin plays Greet and Minnan. Dodin here, an underdog in a match where, you know, I have her, not quite a pick. I might have been a small favorite here, but I'm seeing Dodin out to plus 140, plus 145. She did have to retire in her last match. So this is a pick where go to one of your books and make sure that this bet voids on any retirement, whether it be first set or otherwise. I believe Bovada is like that, bookmaker. Most of the regulated places are like that, but just double check. There's a chance she shows up here, maybe isn't 100% fit and has to retire again, but looks okay from, you know, the little bit of tape that I've seen her kind of hitting balls and things. The match itself, she retired and didn't look too bad. We're indoors here where she's generally very good. She's performed well in this tournament before, so happy to back her here at such a big price like that. Again, with the caveat, go through, check the rules. Again, you got about 30, maybe 40 minutes before this gets started. Look for Dodin there. But the name on the screen, Paolini, this is a bet I like quite a bit. I have her as a favorite over Sai Zhang. Zhang's someone, honestly, it's been tougher the last month or so. I've been actually kind of adjusting her upwards, given how she's played in some of these tournaments. As I've mentioned before, usually she spends this time of year kind of floating around some Chinese events, kind of beating up on some lesser talent there, but can be pretty good, is generally better indoors where we are here. But I think Paolini has a little bit too much of game for her here. I have Paolini out to like minus 135. If I tweak some stuff, I can get it out to minus 140. So anything minus 115 or better, which should be easy to find at this point, looks pretty good. She'll be playing this afternoon. I'm sorry, she's been playing early tomorrow morning. Could be as early as 5:30 Eastern. Might be a little bit later than that. So you've got some time this afternoon to poke around, but looks like money's coming in on her. So grab that sooner rather than later. Again, anything 115 or better, but you should be able to find minus 105, even maybe an even money or two out there if you poke around and look hard enough. Bo, two tennis looks for us again. One starting shortly. Dodin there. If you've got it, again, make sure you bet that at a book where, you know, it cancels on any retirement or anything like that. And then Paolini early tomorrow morning.
Paolini. I like that name. All right, just
fun.
a couple light tennis. Light, you know, I talked about giving out picks for all these sports. I didn't actually give you anything for golf. Now I feel bad. At least you gave me something for tennis and even a bonus pick. We will have some picks. Jared in the chat, familiar face after last night. We call him Call Out Jared because he didn't like Swain for like 30 seconds and then he was fine with it. But he is asking, what number did you like Dodin at?
Dodan at plus 140 or better, plus 135 or better, honestly. I think I played it at plus 135 myself, but if you look around, there should be plus 140, plus 145, something like that.
Okay, sounds good. On to the main event. Jesus. Bears Steelers. Congrats. That's a Monday night
Bears.
game.
It would have been a lot more fun like 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I don't know.
Two
It's the last
years
time
ago.
it's the last time both of these teams were good. Like, was there a Trubisky Roethlisberger overlap kind of thing? A Grossman Steelers overlap? Wait, was that a Super Bowl?
Yeah. I mean, those Super
wasn't a
Bowls
Super
weren't
Bowl.
too far away from each other.
That was
So,
Colts Bears.
It was Colts Bears, and those were Jay Cutler years too. So the Bears,
that's true,
not back. But like, if you made me, and I did not bet this game. I will just have some first touchdown scores with Alex. I'll be doing some halftime stuff. But if you made me bet this game, I would be very much forced to take the Bears. The Bears have looked bad. The offense has looked rough. They don't seem to know what they're doing with this young quarterback. They're a bad offensive line who's actually played better than expected. But when the quarterback is that inexperienced, it makes the offensive line look worse than they're grading out against a good pass rush. Everything is tilted against the Bears. But boy, howdy, do I have a lot of trouble making the Steelers 7-point favorites over much of anybody, even at home with a total under 40. So if I had to bet this, I would be betting the Bears for sure. Taking the 7 points, especially you can get a cheap 7. If you get like a 7 plus 100, Jesus, that might end up betting
that's some
this
sweet
game
action.
if I can find some of that stuff. So it is an ugly game, but with a low total, getting a touchdown there with a team I don't think is that much worse than Pittsburgh at times. Definitely.
What would you value the hook, by the way? So like if it's 7-105, it should be 7.5. Okay, 7.5, 15.
Yeah,
something like that. 7.5, 20.
Not every penny is the same, but right around even money, like 10 cents.
Okay. I'm
So
just curious because it
I
does
have
with a low total like this. It just feels like the hook's going to come into play here, but it might not even matter again. It's always hard to figure out. It's never a good idea. I'm just always curious.
Kickers these days. I have a calculator for it, but I'm sure it's changing too. And you do need to enter the total. You're right. You bring up a good point. It is worth more with a lower total, considering the scoring should be lower. Overall,
I was curious. Did you think about maybe an over at all here? I know it is two teams inclined to run the ball, but in the same way, it's like it's two teams inclined to run the ball against two teams you can run on.
I guess, but at the same time, the red zone stats aren't super appealing either, and they are teams that I want to see what the sacks number is here too. Khalil Mack's out, but I still want to look at the sacks numbers. You have a quarterback who's running into sacks, and you have a quarterback who can't run out of sacks. So I'm guessing it's probably guessing it's a 5.5 tonight. I'm going to take a look at that. But for reals, I am going to bet. I'm going to take some of my Swaim money, reinvest it tonight. First touchdown scores, Alex. Drum roll.
If anybody knows Geoff Swaim, tell him I said thanks. He's apparently not on Twitter anywhere. All the stuff that I could find was tweets about him, not his account. So good for him. Way not to be on social media. But if you know Geoff Swaim, send him our love. We've got 4 bets here tonight. Unfortunately, no numbers that big. This is, again, a pretty tough game where, as I've said before, one of the themes, you run into matchups like this where it's very top heavy. You look at the Steelers, it's going to be Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, basically. Those are kind of the 3 guys absorbing most of their targets. They're the 3 kind of leaders in the market. You go back over to the Bears, the Bears want to run the ball a lot. Their running backs are very low. It can be kind of appealing. Like I said, these are teams that give up rushing touchdowns. Honestly, Najee Harris at 4-1 was the best price I found him. I did consider that for a second. I'll be certainly using that in kind of some same game parlays, maybe use him in some DFS lineups. Not only catching the ball, but running the ball. He should have a pretty good night tonight against this Bears defense, especially with Mack out, I think. But as we look at the opportunity here, I've got one Steeler, Freiermuth, or however the heck you say this guy's name, the tight end, James. He's been really nice lately. Soka got more and more targets every week. He's climbing up kind of, the rate inside the red zone here. 12-1, I know is a little bit lower than usually I play some of these tight ends, but given the matchup and the fact that the Bears have been susceptible to tight end touchdowns, and again, his target rate inside the 20 and especially inside the 10 have been picking up over the last couple weeks. So happy to grab the tight end there, Freiermuth at 12 to 1 or better. Daryl Mooney. Is it Daryl? Is it Darnell? I forget. Mooney anyway.
Darnell. It is
Is it
Darnell.
Darnell? I'm not so good with the names here. Mooney anyway, 16 to 1 or better. Was curious to see some places. So at some places, basically the same price at Allen Robinson, which is where I have him. At other spots, you look, Robinson is like 8 to 10, and you get Mooney here basically at like 14 to 16. Mooney, I think at that number is really great. He actually has a higher target share in the red zone than Allen Robinson in the last couple of weeks. He's somebody that gets a lot of attention from fields here. Again, Allen Robinson, the better wide receiver, but just continues to have the single worst career ever quarterback-wise of any wide receiver in the history of the world. To have to play at Penn State and then to come in and get bortled in Jacksonville and then come to Chicago for Trubisky and all this stuff. I mean, it's truly amazing, but he does draw a lot of attention. Very talented wide receiver, which means Mooney has a lot of chances. And another tight end here, Cole Kmet, second or third, I believe, in terms of target share this season inside the 10 and the 20 for the Bears, gets a lot of looks. And again, the Steelers will kind of have their eyes other spots. I think Kmet at 20 to 1 or better is a really nice play. So 4 names for us. Sorry, we can't get a 40 to 1 or better, but I think we got some nice value here.
Yeah, somebody brought up Jesse James. That was now I've got Cher in my head. Underrated Cher song.
He hasn't been getting much run, Mr. James. I looked at it for a
No,
second.
he's not getting the targets. Like it
It's
could happen.
kind of fire me with Ebron and then maybe a little bit for him here or there, but it's really been James a lot the last couple of weeks.
And yeah, no touchdown, defensive touchdowns. I know he did have a touchdown last week. That brings up the touchdown last week. I remember him scoring and thinking, oh, he's still on the team, huh? I haven't watched a lot of Steelers games this year. Speaking of not watching a lot of Steelers games, I did a Monday Night Football PrizePicks entry, and I ended up on 2 I really liked. And then it said, oh, you can't just do 2 on the same team. You got to pick somebody from the other team. So I ended up having to add a bear, which ended up being Darnell Mooney. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to drop one of these guys. I'm going to make a 3-teamer. This pays 5 to 1, and I believe I'm really much in love with this one. Najee Harris under 28.5 receiving yards. The Bears, while a not good defense, are better against running backs. They're not giving up big gobs of yardage underneath. They are getting killed over the top, which leads me to Deontay Johnson. His target share obviously has gone way up with the Juju injury. His yardage total is set a little low. For my liking, 67.5. I have the over there, so I'm a little bit of correlation there with Najee under, Deontay Johnson over. I'm seeing just a way more target share going to the wide receivers, especially against this Bears defense, who is second worst in the league through these 8 weeks so far for them. As far as giving up passing yards, giving up fantasy points, giving up everything to wide receivers. I think Deontay Johnson probably has a really nice night. I would be putting him in some DFS stuff as well if you have if you're doing a DraftKings Showdown lineup.
Definitely.
And then Darnell Mooney, another one, another over for him, just based on, for some reason, and I think it is what you said, Allen Robinson garners so much attention from the opposing defense. They said, beat us with Mooney. I dare you. And they kind of have been. It's not like they've been beating teams and winning a lot, but Mooney's target share and yardage has gone up quite a bit, and 40 is quite a bit lower than where I thought I'd see this. Especially, he's kind of the man right now. Allen Robinson's a better player, but he's not getting the targets or the yards that Mooney is right now. So Darnell Mooney over 41.5. Hopefully he just catches a 42-yard touchdown pass on the third play from scrimmage, and everybody's happy with that. So if you want to join me on PrizePicks, you can, of course, download it. Use promo code BBB. Get a $100 match with your deposit, and go from there. And let me know if you have any questions on this. I'll be playing this, probably just this one tonight. I don't know if I'll do any Captain FD, any Showdown lineups. I'm just horribly bad at those. And then, yeah, Najee. So Najee, and one real quick thing too, if you look at Najee's average targets per game, it is pretty high. But he had 19 targets in one game. Like his average targets is quite a bit lower than that. There was the game where Ben threw it 60 times, and like Najee had 19 targets. Claypool had 15 targets that day. the Steelers' offense gets a little wonky sometimes. I'm looking for a little more ground and pound today. So I doubt he gets 19 targets today. If he does, shame on me, I guess.
Joel Embiid's out tonight. Maybe don't bet that over.
Are we just going to close every show with bad Sixers news? Is that going to be like a bit we do now?
It's once a week. We're up to one a week. I mean, the Sixers covered the 5 against Portland, so maybe it'll be fine. I'll tweet something out about that.
I'm going to wait till the total drops 3 points, and then I'll bet it.
Yeah, there you go.
So, all right, for me, for Alex, for producer Dan, for everyone here at BETSPERTS, our sponsors, WinBet's PrizePicks, the 76ers, the collar of Colangelo, trusting the process, and all of that. We'll catch you guys tomorrow.